First on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment? No? All right. Next up is the presentation of the financials. Monica?
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Want to kick us off, Director of Finance? We will be looking at the year-to-date numbers on the far right column, and these are as of April 30th, 2023. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You see that we had total operating revenues of $126,893,880. I'm sorry, 680. Operating expenses of $105,811,544, which left us operating income of $21,082,136. We then back out our non-operating expenses of $10,308,351, which left us income before capital contributions of $10,773,785. We then add our capital contributions of $3,364,668, which gave us a change in net position of $14,138,453. When added to the net position at the beginning of the year of $445,310,943, gives us a net position at the end of the period of $459,449,396. Moving on to the flow of funds, I'll direct you to line 20. We see that we generated sufficient revenue to have a balance available for transfers out of $15,798,502. This covered our transfers of $2,136,244 for the operating sub-account for the fuel adjustment. Improvement fund CIP funding of $5,196,575, and improvement fund Resaca CIP funding of $209,876. Total transfers of $7,542,695, which left us surplus, improvement fund surplus of $8,255,807 year to date. And then if you look at the very last page of your presentation, the cash and investments, the demand accounts and investments, sorry. House is not cooperating with me.
There it is.
Okay, sorry about that. Looking at line 9 in the improvement fund, we had an improvement fund balance of $93,804,857. That amount still includes the $29 million Tenaska equity fund. Again, these financials are as of the end of April. You will see in May a change there because we did distribute the money, the $31,355,071 total Tenaska distribution in the month of May. So you will see next month that change in the financials. But as of the end of April, that $29 million was still sitting in the improvement fund.
Monica, you mentioned that, I guess we'll touch upon it when the item comes up. But as far as those uncashed checks, will that amount continue to be shown under improvement fund, or are we going to set up another account where that amount will be reflected?
They're going to be reflected in the clearing account. Yeah, so that's item number 3 up there. So
clearing account. Okay.
Yes.
So we transferred the funds over to the clearing account where we issued the checks.
Okay, great.
Sorry about that. Any other questions on the financials?
No, we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. We've got 2 items left on the agenda. Next up is the presentation on the distribution of the Tenaska Equity Fund. Jorge Santillan.
Good morning. My name is Jorge Santillan, Treasury and Accounting Manager. I'm going to go over a brief presentation on the Tenaska Equity Fund check reimbursement process and statistics summary. Looking at the first page, the check processing. Once we got the check file from the Norma Gomez, our CIS manager, a team of 2 employees processed 26,207 checks with a value of $6,751,510.27. The process lasted from Friday, May 19 through Wednesday, May 24. Some of the tasks included printing, folding, and verifying the check counts. The folded checks were then turned over to another team consisting of 5 to 6 employees who stuffed checks inside envelopes and verified the counts. Envelopes were then turned over to mailroom to add postage and re-verify the count. The last batch of checks were mailed on Thursday, May the 25th, almost 2 weeks ago. Next slide. Some of the check statistics as of June the 6th, 2023, which is the latest data available. Looking at the left side, the check status by count, shown in blue, the total outstanding checks, 17,937 or 68% of the total check count. Looking at on the green area, checks cleared that have cleared the bank, 8,270 or 32% of the total count. Within the outstanding checks, you look at the second bullet point at the bottom, 3,141 have been returned to us. Looking at the right side, the check status by value on the blue area, outstanding checks, 4,189,852.17 of the value, or 62% of the total value. Looking at the green area, the checks cleared that have cleared the bank, 2,561,658.10, or 38% of the total value. Checks continue to be cashed on a daily basis, so these statistics change daily. This is the end of the brief presentation. Any questions?
So with these numbers, we can assume that the remainder, so the non-check portion of the fund, 23 million or so, all that was posted to the accounts as a credit, and we didn't have any issues there with the amounts being correct or any discrepancies.
You're correct.
The majority of that additional fund was posted to the accounts as credits. There was a portion, though, that was applied to write-offs and closed accounts.
Yep.
And there was a portion that was under $1 that was also used as an offset to bad debt expense.
Okay.
For our policies, anything under $1 didn't get posted. The credits got posted, but any refund under $1 that wasn't posted to the account went to bad debt.
Okay. So out of the 30 million or so that was returned to our customers, we've got 4.2 approximately that's still outstanding. The other 26 million has been returned either as a credit or as a check. And deposit,
Customer.
right?
Yes, sir.
Mike, I just want to make a comment because I think the way it was rolled out was really good. There was a lot of people calling, asking me particulars about, well, this person passed away, what do we do here, what do we do there? But actually, y'all had a lot of good information. If people would go back and read it and address the issues that they had. I think we're in a good place. A lot of people are a little concerned with the credit versus why am I getting a check? That also is explained. I guess the key account holders probably have a windfall in their company. So, it was a positive thing coming from your staff and from CUB. Took a little bit longer, but we got there and it's been distributed. And I think all the questions I had or people calling were answered, and y'all covered that pretty well. So,
Yes. Thank you. This was a very tedious process, the check process, but the staff that was involved did an awesome job. So our hand,
it was a massive job.
it was.
So look forward to moving on. And small amount left.
Yeah, it sounds like 4 million, and from what I understand from what Mike said, those whatever checks do remain outstanding, we'll hold on to those amounts for 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes, so we get to distribute to the state in July of 2025.
So in the meantime, once at some point, we'll set up a process or a web page or something so that customers that did not cash their check or when those checks get voided, they're able to access information.
That's something that we could consider, but it's very difficult though because we made publish public information out there, right? We don't want to associate a name with an address or, and so, but the customers can access their accounts and check status of those. I believe those that are inactive can still access the account. Is that correct? I think they were set up that way, so. And if they forgot how to access the account, they can always contact customer service.
So those customers, again, if they're inactive, there's a way for them to go in and check their account.
Right. We can do that online, or they can call in customer service, and the customer service will provide them the information. And
Whatever it is, we'll have 2 years to figure it out before that gets.
Yes. Yes. After 180 days, we get the checks. But if a customer comes in after that, we can always reissue a check.
And Mike, for the record, just for those who may be listening to this meeting, $29 million, $30 million that's been returned. It did not shake the core of our budget. PUB is still operating satisfactorily.
That's correct.
They had a study to ensure that everything stayed solid. Our financials are solid, so we're still operating without any.
Right. And that was all part of that Section 33 of our bond ordinance that we would adhere to. We hired the nationally recognized engineering firm to make sure that we do have sufficient revenue, be able to generate sufficient revenues to cover our debt service coverage ratios going forward. So.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, well, great job. Thank you. Right, that's it for item number 2. Item number 3 is presentation, discussion, possible recommendation regarding the progress of the AMI project. Eddie?
Good morning. Good morning. I think this is just an overview of the project and where we stand. This is the type of status report that we get biweekly, that the team gets. And we have just a quick little legend here it shows the health of some of the major issues that we're going through. Right now, everything's looking pretty good. The one issue that has kind of pushed us back a couple of months has been the change in legal firms, because as I'll show a little bit later. So you can see here, like in vendor contract, the major project, the major push right now is vendor contracting with all 5 vendors. So stopping in the middle of that and switching law firms did slow things up, but we're moving along pretty well. Right now, we're having a weekly meeting with the attorneys to go over any issues, and the 2 firms have worked together very well in transitioning, and we meet weekly to go over any issues or anything that maybe Spencer Fane is not familiar with that they need to be brought up to date. The goal is to get them to hopefully get all the contracts finalized, reviewed and finalized, so that we can then bring them to the board and have the board approve them, hopefully by the end of July, August. So it did push us back about 3 months. But other than that, everything's moving along pretty well. We have meetings on our solution architecture. We're also doing business process design, and we're going through the meters. Right now, we're working with our electric department to configure the meters. In other words, what different features do they need in those electric meters? Because it's not just a meter itself and you buy a meter. You have to program all the little things that you want inside the meter. So first you decide on the model, and then you decide on all the items that are programmed within that, all the different features that you want. So we're doing that for the electric and the water side. We're pretty close to finishing up on the electric side, and I think we should be done with the water in a couple of weeks. And then once that's done, then we can start. That'll roll into the contracts to get the pricing for those meters. We're also working on a lot of organizational change management. One of the things that we've had eSource come in and do for us is to review all of our processes the way they are currently, so that we can document them all in regards to the customer service side, the metering side, anything that has to do with the customer. We're documenting all that and formalizing it because you need to know where you are before you can change. And so once we finish that, then we can turn around and say, okay, how do we want to change these processes with the advent of AMI? What are the things that we can do that we want to be able to take advantage of Okay, here's where we are. We have that documented now. Now, what do we want to change? What do we want to redo? What new things do we want to bring in? So that's going very well. And we have an on-site meeting next week with majority of staff to walk through that and try to put the pieces together for the current state. And then we'll start working on the new state. And then here are some of the upcoming tasks. And again, this is the report that the team goes through every couple of weeks, just to kind of keep us in line and what are we working on? What are we doing? One of the big items that we recently got was the Smart Water Grant Award. So we received $5 million from towards the water side of the project. So that's great because that's the side of the house that needed the money the most. So to be able to bring $5 million in to alleviate that pressure from rates on the water side is fantastic. So, and
that gets applied directly to to this project, correct, Eddie? I mean, all 5 million of that will go towards the budgeted expenses for the AMI project.
AMI on the water side. Yeah. So George and his group will keep us honest and make sure that, yeah, it has to be for the water part, but that's where we needed it the most because, well, you know.
But out of the 30 million, I assume more than 5 million goes to the water side.
Oh yeah, roughly it's almost a 50-50 split.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
There's plenty to cover the 5.
Oh, yeah, we could, if they want to give us 5 million more, we'll take it.
Great. Eddie, quick question. The meter deployment is still scheduled for más o menos January of 2024?
The pilot project is scheduled, I want to say for March, April of 2024.
Oh, March, April.
Yes, and that is on schedule. We had to finagle that a little bit. Right now, the lead time, which is one of the issues, the lead time for electric meters, and this is everybody, is 52 weeks, which is a year. So if we order today, that means we'd get those meters a year from today, hopefully. Okay, on the water side, it's 26 weeks. When we ran, when that came to light back in March, we thought, uh-oh, because our problem is I can't order meters until I have a contract. I don't have contracts. I can't issue $6 million worth of POs with no contract. The contracts need to come to the board to be approved. So one of the things we did is we planned out the pilot project. We need approximately 3,000 electric meters and approximately 3,000 water meters. The pilot project is where you test everything. In other words, you actually put those meters in place. There's 4 different areas in town that we're looking at. Lakeway, because it's water only. Downtown, because there's some issues connectivity from a connectivity standpoint down there. The southmost region, way south, again, we have connectivity issues down there. And then there's an apartment complex in the middle of town that we wanted to try. You typically, the way I usually structure these things is I pick my most difficult areas, because if I'm going to test it, I want to test it with that. I don't want to test it with the easy stuff. So when we do the pilot, those are the areas we're going to look at. So we need 3,000 electric and 3,000 water. Long story short, we have worked with LNG and TEC, Texas Electric Cooperative. They're a distributor for LNG. We've done business with them for many, many years. And TEC is fronting the PO because LNG needs a PO. Without a contract, they can't issue. Without a PO, they can't issue. So TEC is going to do the PO for us for the 3,000 meters. We will then, once the board has approved the contract and signed off, then we will assume that PO. Since the meters are in high demand.
Sorry, going back to the original question. More or less, when are we looking at?
We're looking at starting in March or April for the pilot.
Okay, what about the full project?
The full project would be a year from whenever we sign. We'll start getting those meters. And at that point, it's because it's during the pilot that
the water should be started 6 months prior to.
Yeah, yes. One of the things that we've done is in working with, in doing the project planning, if I can, as soon as I can get the water meters, because I should be able to get them sooner, then we're going to start those. So we did check with in the contract, one of the things we're doing is breaking that up so that when we do receive them, we can start immediately.
So when your best guess on starting with water?
With water, I would think as soon as we get the pilot done. The pilot is the most important thing right now.
So when do you think we'd start?
The pilot will begin in March, April.
Okay, so it wouldn't start any sooner.
Yeah, because what we're doing, right now, what we're doing is contracts, and then we'll move into configuration of the system, the communications. Once all that is in place, then with the pilot project on that small subset, that 6,000 meters, we'll test everything. Do the meters work? Do the communications work? Is the software integrated? You test everything in the pilot.
I got it. I just wanted to get a date.
Right, just for I guess for the public's point of view. Once all that is tested out, then putting all the other meters in, it's like pancakes because you've tested everything already. So if there's an issue, once the pilot's done, that's the final go, no go decision. If you have problems, you remediate the problems. If you can't remediate them, you stop it. But at that point, you've only spent a small subset.
And budget wise, Eddie, any changes other than the 5 million?
There's our timetable. It's in there. Oops, I guess they didn't include the second one. From the budget perspective, the only issue that has popped up at this point is there's a minor issue. We were just notified by the electric department when we were doing the configuration of the electric meters that they would like an additional feature that would help them on the meters to determine issues with the customer, like power factor and that sort of thing. That's going to be an additional 500,000. So since that's an additional request, because it's $10 a meter, but when you multiply that by 53,000 meters, it comes out to 500,000. Long story short, I told them that's fine. If you're going to do that, now is exactly the time to be doing that, because we're at the point to where speak now or forever hold your peace. But then you need to come up with the funding for that. So they're going to be looking into the funding. I'm sure they'll be having those discussions with finance. But other than that, no surprises.
Eddie, just a quick question. I'm just educating on this. The fiber, the PTX fiber that's being dropped, is that related with the AMI rollout in the future?
It will help us. We designed the project without that in mind because we had to, because we weren't sure where they were going to be when we were ready. So we're taking advantage of PUB's fiber ring. The communications for the water meters are cellular, so we don't need fiber at all. The communications on the electric side can take advantage of the fiber. Now, once the fiber project comes in, that'll be even better because obviously it's a much more robust system, and we're working with the city so that it will replace. It will kind of replace as a primary our current system, which is in the air. This will mostly be underground, so it's much more hardened hurricanes, that kind of thing. And then the other benefit is that that fiber, other than the infrastructure being underground, then it will pop up and it'll go to the last mile to the customer via our poles, that kind of thing. We will then take advantage of that, and instead of communicating via radio, we'll be able to tie that into our collector and communicate through the fiber, which gives us a lot more capability.
Well, PB is talking, is communicating.
We're working with them.
The PTX fiber, just for clarification, it's a city project
Correct.
that they are rolling out and implementing. It's, I know it's all over the city. It's a big thing. They're digging everywhere. But at some point, they may benefit PB, as you're saying.
Yeah, we're working with the city on the BTX project. It will, in the end, benefit PUB, and it will benefit our customer.
If BTX was not being implemented this time by the city, AMI would still be moving forward. with
Correct.
this project.
Correct.
Okay, no, I'm good.
All right,
Any other questions? Thank you.
thanks, Ed. Oops. That does it for our presentation items. Number 4 is discussion and a request for future agenda items.
I don't have anything.
And that's it.
That's it. That's all we have.
Is adjournment. So 10:25, finance meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Wanted to get you in and out as quickly as we